Welcome to Shorty SuperCoach. Today we're going to take a look at my side as I get stuck into my press conference. So take a bit of a break from SEN and I'll get stuck into my side right now. Take a look at a bit of the numbers. 2,210. So it was a reasonable week. Not a bad week. I'm fairly happy with it. I mean, whenever you go up in the rankings and you're ranked somewhere near the top 20 to 25,000, it's always a reasonable week. If you can go up by 3,000, you'll be fairly pleased. So I break into the top 18,000, into the top 10%. So I'm pleased about that. But as you'll see when I take a look at my side, there are a few guys who let me down, and I was a big beneficiary of my captain who got me off to a really good start. And perhaps if some of the other guys may have lifted their end of the bargain a little bit, I might have been looking down the barrel of something in excess of 2,300, but it's not to be the case. I certainly won't complain because I'm fairly pleased with it. You take that, that's for sure, particularly when some people would have had poor weeks off the back of some injuries. So taking a look at my side here, we'll start with the backline as we always do. Adams and Laird, as I always say, they were pretty good. You know, Laird, one of his not quieter games, but he's been hitting the ton regularly. Didn't quite do it this time at 89 points in Adelaide's thumping win. Is more than acceptable. Zach Tui, 90, good. Pleased with his selection overall. Heath Shaw, what is going on there? He's really struggling. I'm not sure what's going on there. No pun intended, actually, but he just seems to be dishing out 70s to 80s, and I really thought that, you know, he's a premium. We know that, but where is his premium form? If someone's watched the Giants games closer than I have, I listened to a fair bit of their game against the Eagles, and they said he played well. I haven't looked at the stats, but I presume he turned it over a little bit. But I actually haven't even looked at the stats for that game. So, look, if you want to tell me if he's slightly changed his role or something, or is he just a little bit out of form? You know, he's only 8 points off where you'd accept. I mean, he's probably 20 points off his very best, but I think we'd accept somewhere around the 95 mark. But anyway, I will keep the faith, but I haven't been pleased as yet with that inclusion of Heath Shaw. Nick Newman, 72, very impressive. He continues to be the best cash cow there is, just about. Scoring well. What's he up to now? 416, and he'll continue to go up and certainly stay around that probably 420 to 450 mark. And I would say he would be not far from being offloaded despite his good form, but he will be one of the last that you look to get rid of. Williamson, not so good. As you can see, I got Tommy Stewart sitting there on the bench with 91 points. I'm not going to complain too much about that because, look, Stewart, yes, you miss out on his 91 points. Yes, you miss out on 50 points of your own, but that'll be great for making some cash. I never complain when a cash cow scores well on the bench because, yeah, sure, it's a little bit annoying, but you get the cash from it, and that's really what it's about. Williamson, the 40 points there. I can't remember what he was priced at before, but he's clearly plateaued, if not gone down slightly from memory. So he's probably going to be offloaded quite clearly with the buy. That'd be an obvious one. Paddy Dangerfield, of course, was my captain. Just before I get stuck into that, of course, Jake Lloyd in the back line. Many people would have been severely hurt by his. I think it was just 4 points, suffering an early concussion. So, you know, I can talk about how it's disappointing with Shaw and, you know, it's a bugger missed out on 50 points, but, you know, there would have been people who missed out on 100 points with Jakey Lloyd, and it's just in the most frustrating of circumstances. So, you know, shout out to all those salty super coaches out there. But Dangerfield got me off to a beautiful start, 163, had the VC on him for a second time in a row, and he delivered once again. That has been, you know, I talk about Shaw being a frustrating inclusion as a premium. You know, he comes in, hasn't quite delivered. Dangerfield has been quite the opposite. Brought him in what we would have to say will be his lowest price point. I think it was around 560, and he's gone 150, 160, and I've doubled him both times. That's exactly what you want to be looking to do. So, really pleased with that. Tom Mitchell, 105 points. Of course, it wasn't quite his 50 touches. Still played an extremely good game. Pendlebury and, of course, Treloar there is on the bench, as you can see, all part of the VC action. Very impressive, both those pies. Dan Hanbury, very good. Fife, not so struggling. just averaging 100 points there. I'm really surprised. People will start calling for him. People will definitely start thinking that trading Nat Fyfe will be an option. So I'm not quite sold on it. As you know, I stick with my premiums. And before you have a crack at me, there's two of them there, Treloar and Hanbury. I've stuck with them and they've delivered. So that's my reasoning behind it. More often than not, premiums will come good and deliver. So I will keep the faith unless there's a bit of an injury niggle with Fyfe. I'll be keeping the faith. So Barrett, again, he's striking a reasonable form for a cash cow. Quite a few. What did you get? About 80 odd last week, 77 this week. He's making me some nice coin. I'm enjoying that. Myers, not enjoying his output. Really struggling. I thought, given a mature age and experienced player, I expected around your 70 average at least. At the moment, it's at 52. And we're going to obviously stick with him because he seems somewhat cemented in the side with his experience and mature body. But it is a little bit under what we would have liked to see him producing. Speaking of premiums you trade in and get immediately frustrated, Steph Martin was exactly that. Of course, it wasn't ideal when your ruckman go head-to-head immediately. Of course, Sandilands, I didn't want to cop a 0. You can catch out my thought, or you can catch my thought process on that in the weekend preview. I really talk about Sandilands and the decision in regards to that. You know, it's not ideal. I trade in Martin for 1 week before the bye, plus he's playing my other ruckman. It wasn't ideal, but I think in the long term and the big picture, Martin will be a very good selection. Not ideal that he turned out his lowest score of the season. Nonetheless, on the flip side, Grundy was very impressive, 120 points, one of his highest scores for the season, and a bit of a return to form after what has been a semi-lean patch for Brady. Forward line, Dalhouse and McRae continue to follow similar trends with their scoring. They're pretty much within 10 points of one another most weeks, and again, they were just below where you'd like. Despite the Dogs getting home, they didn't have their best games. Nankervis, I didn't catch all of that game, but he wasn't unbelievable. By all reports, I think he played fairly well, but maybe not reflected in his scoring. Shawnee Higgins was very damaging in North Melbourne's rollercoaster win. Very pleased with that. And Tommy Lynch, I'll take that every day of the week when, you know, you see a Melbourne side just absolutely go rampant. And I think, you know, for Lynch to churn out something like that, I'll take it. I'm not wrapped with it, but I'll take it. And a bit like Heaney as well. You know, not his best game of all time, but he stepped up in that last quarter. I think he scored about 40-odd points in that last quarter. So that's really good. He was staring down the barrel of a second poor score in a row, but he turned it around to give us something that we can accept. And Mitchie Hannon on the bench there. 88, his second 80, mid-80s. I think he scored 85, was it last week, guys, if you remember. But he's really starting to produce the goods. So very pleased with that because he was looking like a player, like a cash cow that was just going to sit on my bench, not make much coin, not give him much coverage, be a bit of a dead weight, but he has come good at the best of times and will make me some coin. So very pleased about that. So that's my side. That's the stats. You can take a look at those. But I do want to also have a bit of a look at the leagues just quickly. So, you know, I don't think there was anything else to really talk about with my side. I'm fairly pleased with how it's going. So certainly stay tuned to see my trades later in the week. I'll be discussing that. Of course, we hit the buys now, so we really got to start thinking about it. And I'll do something a little bit different for Shorty SuperCoach later in the week. We will have someone on board to talk about the buys. He tells me he's a buys expert, a bit of a genius when it comes to the buy structure. So I'll be getting him on board. We'll discuss something a little bit different. It's just been Shorty SuperCoach so far, but we should, all going to plan, of course, schedule-wise, should have a bit of a guest on board, and we'll discuss all things buys, because if you get them wrong, it can really kill you, and a lot of people do get them wrong, and a lot of people accept getting it wrong. They go, oh, look, it's tough. I'm going to have one bad week. Not the case. If you can have 1 week where you just have an average sort of week when other people are really failing, but then you can pick up a lot of points in your other good weeks. I think naturally any team's going to have 1 week that really hits them, and it's hard to score well. But I think you can really make up a lot of points in the buys. So it really does separate the good and the bad super coaches. Or I shouldn't say the good and the bad, the good and the great. The ones who really think about it, really have planned, really benefits them. So hopefully have someone joining me later in the week. Take a quick look at the leagues. Which one is this? I think it's the first one. Oh, it's Footy Fanatics. I don't quite know why I didn't have it on that already, but anyway. So we'll just wait for this to load. Shorty SuperCoach. Where am I? Gee. No good. There I am, dead in ninth, so struggling, but hopefully can rebound. Of course, Craig out there on top doing quite nicely, and doing reasonably nicely as a league as well, in the top 700. So good stuff for all involved in that league. My second league, I'm doing a bit better than that, coming third. How'd it go on the weekend? Oh, Jesus, lost. There you go. I thought I might have had a win with a reasonable score, but got pipped anyway, so well done. Jared leading the way there, so good stuff. How's this league tracking along? Not as well in the overall scheme of things, but hopefully work our way back closer to the 1,000 mark. This league, I think, was doing well. Nah, must have been the other league. Anyway, so coming ninth in that one. Where am I? Up here. And then in my fourth league, I am coming third. So, as you can see, Michael on top there. And this league is the one that's also doing quite well, ranked 822. So, a couple of pretty strong leagues. I mean, they're all pretty strong. I mean, they're all pretty reasonable leagues. So, I think two of them in particular are doing really well. And I think the others are certainly tracking along pretty nicely in the big scheme of things. So, you know, hopefully you catch your name on there. Hopefully I'm not having to scroll too far down for you. Hopefully you're not down towards the bottom, but Watto, that's me mate there, Watto. I don't quite think he's checking the SuperCoach Classic as often as maybe he might like to, but if you are in the bottom though, in that bottom four, keep fighting away, because you just never know, and it's always good to not just throw the towel in, because you will impact the league in some way. You know, if you do throw the towel in, but you've knocked off someone in the first few weeks, and you just become an easy beat because you've given up in the second half of the season, it does change the format and the landscape of the league. So certainly keep fighting away, if not for your own pride and respect in this game of SuperCoach, but just for the evenness of these leagues as well. And the fact that an overall league ranking, I find it's quite good to be in a league that goes well. I put a fair bit of pride into that. If a league goes nicely, it does make you feel quite good. And it does only take two people to get off to a bad start and go, oh, bugger it, you know, bloody SuperCoach, stuff it. I'm not going to check this very often. And then all of a sudden 2-3 teams start really bringing the whole league down. So hopefully none of you guys are doing that, because hopefully, you know, subscribing to this channel, you're also passionate, rah, rah, rah. So hopefully you're still going well. But nonetheless, thanks for tuning in, guys. I'll more than likely have a Shorty say. I'm thinking about doing the Dixon discussion or maybe the Hanbury thing. They're a bit yesterday's hero now, because by the time I do it, it's probably Tuesday, Monday. It's a little bit old, but unless something else comes to my mind, I'll probably run with that. And other than that, I'll be back for previewing the buys and working our way through that. So that should be interesting. So stay tuned for that. And yeah, once again, thanks for tuning in. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, as I say every week. And I hope you had a good week in SuperCoach as well. Let me know how you went. Always good to see those comments when you guys are going well. So thanks for tuning in. I'll catch you later.